chansam pamage sadam bala. Yatsen choking junye pamajane sudra. Kodu kandra mamba kor kie jesu dadre. Shingula chishe suso guru pema siddhi ho. Om ahum benza guru pema siddhi ho. Om ahum benza guru pema siddhi ho. May the Buddha's blessings ever awaken and illumine our minds. May the enlightened one's blessing and inspiration ever unfold in our good hearts. May the inconceivable blessing of enlightenment, of awakefulness itself, dispel the momentary illusion we've ever been separate, incomplete, or apart. Homage to the Buddha-ness within. May all realize it and be benefited by it for a better world and a better future for all the generations. And may you all be included in our sterling aspirations and dialogue today.
What a beautiful way to begin, sir.
This is an ancient yet timeless Tibetan prayer and invocation called the seven-line prayer to the Lotus Guru, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism, of Tantric Buddhism, of Dzogchen Padmasambhava, the lotus-born guru who came from India to Tibet in the 8th century AD and more or less civilized the savage Tibetan land. So converted them to Buddhism, but
from the Bon,
educated.
The Bon people.
Well, some of them were Bon, and some not even having any ethical or religious or education
At all. Now, can you do it in Yiddish?
Gewalt. Oi.
A fellow like you should be able to be
my mother is turning over in her grave now, thinking he can't do that in Yiddish.
All those years
she would have a more smart answer, like that was Yiddish. She'd say, "I heard Yiddish.
It's my son.
It's all good.
What are you talking?
That was Yiddish. Enough. God understands." I mean Buddha. That's my mother. My mother was a funny one.
Oh, that's funny. I love how she shows up in your book.
Joyce Miller, the Mama Lama.
Yeah, the Mama Lama. That's beautiful. We are seated today here at A Better World with Lama Surya Das. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World, as you know. And we are going to be speaking about his latest book, Buddha Standard Time, which I realize should be BST, sort of like we have EST.
Yeah, this is BST.
This is BST.
No
right?
BS, but BST.
No, exactly. A big difference.
Yeah.
And it's actually a wonderful book. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Thank you.
I feel like you really helped to rivet us, the reader, in the moment.
I hope so.
Take another perspective on time, which, my old Tai Chi teacher who I was telling you about earlier, Bob Loomish, used to say that time was one of the most essential, important subjects a human being can study.
Well, I should have interviewed you for this book, then I could have plagiarized your teacher, Bob.
Yes, we would have both been happy.
Ancient wisdom, a.k.a. plagiarizing.
That's right, exactly.
Like Shakespeare did.
That's right, exactly. So what inspired you to write this? I mean, you're so voluminous. You've written some wonderful books. We've had you on the show before, talking about some of the books, The Buddha Heart, etc. You were here last, actually, just after 9/11. And here we are, interestingly, again, 10 years later. Interesting.
Yes, we just had the 10-year...
Talk about time cycles,
10-year commemoration of that terrible day. I was in Washington, D.C. for that. We had a Buddhist peace event weekend.
You helped us through our show back then to grieve and to experience the feelings that came up for all of us at the time. You were in New York and you were kind enough to come.
Well, that
So
was a real learning moment, a teaching moment, and I think we all remember how everybody was very vulnerable and collaborative and empathic at that time. Unfortunately, our habits take over, and we were encouraged to get back to life as usual and start shopping and, by extension, arguing and being partisan again. And so we have fallen back into our old habits.
What's that about from a Buddhist perspective?
Karma, conditioning. Conditioning. That it takes a lot of attention and intention to recondition and decondition ourselves in the direction of freedom. And that's one of the theses in this book, living in the moment. And you're a therapist, I think, Mitchell. Living in the moment is well, I haven't seen your resume.
Yes.
I feel good about this and being here with you, and I feel,
You feel the healing.
I feel it.
Spirit.
I feel it. It's beautiful, and you have a beautiful aura. No, but I think that living in the moment, the nowness is the ultimate therapy, and I'll stand behind that. If one is totally now, there is no past and future impinging on us, no self story, no terrible childhood, no memories. In the now, and there's no fantasies and worries and imaginations about the future. It's just very free and unlinked. If we're totally in the now, and that's the thesis of this book, that it's not time we lack today, but focus and awareness and priorities. That we actually have all the time in the world, but it's up to us how we choose to use it, or else we abuse it and lose it. We waste so much time. Time gets away from us. And that's why I wrote this book, Mitchell, which is what you asked, basically.
Sure.
This is my 13th or 14th book. I don't know. I should know, but I don't.
Your mother knows.
Teaching, my mother knows, may she rest in peace, but she's still counting her achievements through me. I'm sure.
He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a lawyer.
But he became an Indian chief,
right.
a Lama.
There we go.
So people everywhere, and I'm always traveling and teaching and speaking and doing some spiritual activism and stewardship. We're trying to. People all say they don't have enough time today. I mean, we hear this everywhere. So I wanted to apply the timeless wisdom teachings of Buddhism, particularly about mindfulness rather than mindlessly sleepwalking through life. Mindfulness and attention and intention and being here now, which is an evergreen subject from Eckhart Tolle to Ram Dass, the previous generation, and all the way back. All the way. This is not new, but it's still fresh, like every morning.
Right.
It's still a virginal subject, fresh, like every morning, dawn of creation, every moment. And so I wanted to talk about this, how to live in the moment, in this dawn of creation, in this freshness, in this lightness, in this freedom that we can experience by being in now. And to really start at the top in the steepest way, we are always in the now. So
we can't get out of it.
So it makes no sense not to be with that.
Right.
I mean, this is not a belief system.
That's an important
And so
point.
if we're wandering around, if we're, living in the past, if we're overly nostalgic, I'm not talking about remembering. Remembering is a nowness activity. That's fine. I remember what door I came in here, and I know where I'm going tonight. But that's
It's
a nowness awareness. But
remembering.
living too much in the past or the future, that's the problem. So,
Exactly.
It's like some people live in their head, the way we say it, or we're always in the future. Many of us are always in the future, like when we're driving somewhere. We're always as if we're where we're going to. Don't even know we're in the seat. We don't feel our bottom sensations of our butt on the seat. And we're not really in our body, as it were.
Right.
So this is a way to awaken to reality. What's really going on?
And
Right.
strategizing.
We're wandering in the past and future and not in the holy now, the timeless time. Ascendant, deepest time that bisects every moment of linear, horizontal, ordinary, conventional, small time. So let's not sweat the small time stuff all the time and tune into the timeless, the eternal in every moment, the holy now, while we go through time, and time goes through us, that we live in the now. Like now. This is it.
Like now.
This is beautiful. All of evolution has brought us to this point.
That's right.
And this is beautiful. And if not now, when? An ancient rabbi, Hillel, said that. If not now, when? Exactly. And if not you, who? So let's step up to that. That is the high ground. We don't have to go to Tibet or some other holy land, Jerusalem, or wherever you think it is. If it's not here, it's nowhere.
This is our
and
temple,
if it is here,
right
it's everywhere.
Here.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that's an ancient universal teaching. The mystics and sages of all the ages agree on that. It's not just an Eastern teaching or a Buddhistic teaching. And this is
Yeah.
very important for us
You
today when we
also-
seem so time stressed. We feel
Right.
like there's a time famine, but this is a big illusion. We're still wasting plenty of time. And I'm not against television, but the average American still watches 3 to 5 hours a day of TV, statistically speaking,
My.
even though we're also surfing the net and social media and many other things going on at the same time. So
Twitting and tweeting and
where does all our time go? That's partly up to us.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking our time. We're giving it to this and that.
But you made a very important point, Surya, which is that in the moment, in the now, it's not just some kind of blank reality.
That's right. No.
It's full of our kinesthetic sensation.
It's full of everything.
Our awareness, but also it's that we can in the now remember the past.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the only time you can.
That's right. It's a nowness activity.
And you can
And plan
also
the future.
project it- exactly.
Like if I'm
project it
planning
to the
my
future.
children's or, family's college fund, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we can't just live in the now. Like you have to look at the map or the GPS about what exit to get off on the East Side Drive to come here. So wisdom is sane above all. But still, it's a little more deep than just the conceptual level. We need to be able to intuitively grasp, internalize what we're talking about here,
Yes.
living in the now, and really imbibing its delectable essences, sinking our roots deep in the good earth
So,
of the now,
in a
and not
sense-
being unrooted.
Are you talking about really a sensory awareness? Is that what I'm...
That's part of it, but it's not just sensory. It's also intuitive, psychic, emotional, all the
distinct
levels.
from just allowing the mind to go on its unconscious and
Yeah,
fractious
wanderings and meanderings.
Right.
Oscar Ochazu, the Sufi teacher, called it
Sure.
chichings. I like that. I call it, it's like cicadas or crickets in that. Your mind, it's like static.
Right.
And other
you
people
know-
in Tibetan, we call it namtoks, which means
Yeah.
discursive thought, like
Yes.
just mental spinning. But it means superstitions. So it's also like believing in the wrong things, kind of like that. You should be thinking about thinking. Thinking is good. The more you think, the better. See, it's a kind of a discursivity that you don't need. When you need to have a chain of thought, like to analyze something, that's very important and healthy. But the mind is a good servant, but a poor master. This kind of superstition that the more we think, the better we become, a little questionable.
Yes, I agree. Unless we're thinking more with the heart.
Well,
That's a different kind of
yeah,
thinking.
that's a kind of like intuitive or a heartfelt consciousness. There's quite a difference between consciousness and thought. For example, I'm sure you experienced, and many of you would have experienced, being alive, being aware, and not having thought. And I'm not just talking about having a perfect moment of meditation. Maybe in sex, maybe in danger, maybe in childbirth, maybe
Or sports. I experience it in
maybe in
playing
sports
tennis.
or extreme activity.
Yeah.
You never, or maybe in a mystical experience in a house of worship or in nature, being transported by beauty.
The transcendent.
You're just there and you're speechless, like
That moment of awe.
yeah.
You know?
And that you don't need thought, but you're not dead, and you're not Swiss cheese. You're very sensate. You're very conscious. There's a lucidity. We call it a luminosity. You're luminous,
That's right.
but you don't need to think and analyze it. It's the right side of the brain activity,
So
if you want to
how
look
do
at
you
it that way.
then- Yeah. How do you, and also just to come back to the heart, by the way, it's important to realize that
Yes.
neuroscience has shown us that we have some 30 to 40,000 neurons and neuroreceptor sites in the heart, in and around the heart, and it is an autonomous brain. So the ancient notion of thinking with the heart has actual physiological reality.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Usually when they talk about the second head, they're talking about something else. But you can edit that out. I didn't know that statistic, but I have...
Or as Woody Allen would say, it's my second favorite brain.
Yeah, right. But in this book, Living in Buddhist Standard Time, I have quite a bit about neuroscience because there's
Yes,
a lot
you
of
do.
research on these
Like,
days from the new
Davidson's work
MRIs.
with the Tibetans.
Yeah.
Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, basically, there have been a lot of Tibetan lamas and master meditators who've had
Yeah.
these fMRIs, the newer kind of MRI, put on,
Is
the
it magnetic?
skull. Yeah,
Yeah.
magnetic resonance
Bruce
imagery.
Lipton's told me about this.
So
It's very
and
cool.
you start to see what parts of the brain are lighting up when you're meditating on compassion or wishing well for others, or you're getting very centered and calm and peaceful. So you can replicate that. So it's kind of almost like a biofeedback. And it's not just, and they found out it's not just that the brain structure determines our thoughts and language and concepts, but if you intentionally have certain kinds of thoughts, language, and concepts, you can restructure the brain. So we
does
can
that mean
become.
we have to learn Tibetan?
No, it has nothing to do with
Hebrew. No, what?
We have to learn something more about ourselves and the world. Like
so it has to do with our direct cognition of the outside
Like if we
world.
want to be happier, if we have more unselfish and altruistic thoughts, then the happiness centers light up and there's more dopamine and other hormones released. So that you can raise your happiness quotient and so on, which is very important for what people are looking for in this world. It's called neuroplasticity.
Oh, neuroplasticity
Yes,
is
the malleability of the brain.
Exactly, of the brain to change,
So
to mutate.
it's proving what a lot of meditators and yogis and prayer masters have known for many centuries.
Neurological connections and dendritic relationships. Now, you said something really interesting in here, which had to do with the fact that females have, you used the phrase, we're more spiritually advanced in a sense by definition, because they have more dendritic connections across the corpus callosum.
That's scientific research. So it's hard to say in general that one gender is more spiritual than the other, but even Tibetan Buddhism...
What does that mean anyway? That was the thing I was wondering.
Well, I'll tell you what it means, like practically in my tradition, which is all I know about. I don't know about science and those things, although my brother's a brain scientist. But some of my best friends, But what it means is, even 1,500 years ago, some Tibetan masters said that women, if they practice spiritual practices, they get enlightened faster. That it's easier for men, and this is partly about the culture. Like men could go off alone and didn't have monthlies and didn't have babies. Physically, women did. The culture. But and men could get educated more easily than women in the old world until recently. The culture, not the truth, but the culture, local culture. But that if women practice spiritually, they get there faster. And that has to do with that kind of sensitivity and intuition.
Especially because of our shared root in Judaism by birth, and our later interest in and involvement in Tibetan Buddhism. Of course, you way more than myself. In Judaism, the number of mitzvot, the obligations of a man and woman, are also radically different.
I didn't know that. Tell me.
Hundreds more for the man. Yeah. Because he's got so much further to travel on the path.
Yeah, I was going to say a man needs more rules. But
exactly.
Willis is really joking because we all have masculine and feminine energy in us.
Exactly. I was hoping you'd make that point.
And there's no gender in the divine, in the light, in the God, and whatever you want to call it. In Buddha nature, there's no gender.
Exactly.
But there are some differences in masculine.
Everybody.
Right, there's a different preponderance of masculine and feminine energy. Exactly. Not just male and female, but masculine and feminine.
And in different cycles of our lives as well.
Right, that's right.
When we're testosterone-ridden in our teens and 20s and 30s and 40s, well, it doesn't
50s and 60s and 70s.
It hasn't stopped yet. But there is a change, when we become more the opposite, You tell a couple of stories in here which I really enjoyed. One was of your neighbor, who is some high-powered lawyer who never has enough time to eat, let alone visit his wife and his kids. And
he works 90 hours a week.
90.
Even though he's a partner with the firm, he's not just a neophyte trying to get partnership.
So tell, if he would, the story. And
but he's also an immigrant from the Middle East.
Are integratable into our daily lives.
It's nice that you picked out that story, Mitchell, because that's one of my favorite stories in there, because it's kind of very practical. First of all, he's an immigrant from the Middle East. So, we're talking about a very average person who came to America to get ahead materially. Didn't have the advantages we had, where we could think about other things in college rather than getting ahead, because our parents had gotten ahead for us. So he said to me, Surya, I feel so fragmented and overwhelmed, and I don't have enough time, and I have this big house, I have this beautiful garden that the gardeners take care of. Then my children play in, but I never play in it, and I can't enjoy it. And I work 90 hours a week, and sometimes I travel, and I'm missing my kids' upbringing. And I don't have extra time to meditate. I know you're going to say get up half an hour earlier, but I'm already going to bed at 12 and getting up at 5:30 or 6. I mean, I'm not like laying around over there, and in my big house. with the water, hot tub and all.
There's no half hour.
Yeah, there's no. So I said, no, it's not about that. It's about, first of all, integrating it in daily life. Integration is the name of the game. Making every breath a prayer or a mantra, or just being more aware when you're chewing and eating, living more in the present. We call it mindfulness, paying more attention and all. But second, I would say that since you're up so early, why don't you just take a couple of minutes while you're drinking your coffee in the morning to go outside in the garden while you're drinking your coffee? And I'll call that your meditation, your coffee meditation. Don't be plugged in with the podcasts or the homework or the radio. You know, he probably has the news on, CNN or the radio on while he's having his coffee at 6 in the morning. Take your coffee and go out in the garden and just walk around or sit there in any weather, and that'll be your meditation. And that way you can use your time to have your coffee and have your meditation. And it wasn't that clear to me how this was going to work, but it just came naturally as like, here's a guy, and I know, and I hear your plight, and this is what you could do.
Yeah.
And he started to do that, and it really worked great for him. He said that was like the best part of the day. And he started to enjoy the garden and enjoy the weather and have like 10 or 15 minutes of alone time and peace. And he had never really valued that before in his upbringing. He hadn't been taught that. And he hadn't been taught that at law school while he was working at night in his father's grocery store to get through law school and college, and having kids early because he was in the old culture way. And he said, wow, now I see why people meditate. This is like, there's nothing going on, but there's so much happening. So that's a little natural meditation that anybody can do. Wherever you are, like while you're watching the kids sitting at the beach or at the pool or at the soccer game or driving them, you're waiting for them at music lessons. You can use that time, and you don't have to sit in a yoga posture in your soccer mom van to do it.
Right. You don't have to be
just sit there,
full lotus,
or just stand there,
or half.
Yeah, or just stand there and just take in the nature and breathe, relax, center, focus, and smile. This exercise in the book: breathe, relax, center, focus, and smile. It only takes 5 seconds.
Well, that's the other nice thing. You punctuate the chapters, each one, Surya, with some exercises, some very practical how to and what to do.
Well, I'm all about that, as you know, Mitchell, is practicing it and enacting it and actualizing all that is within us, not just believing in it or some kind of conversion or creeds. So I have in every chapter a timeout, like some way to have a timeout and an exercise and a guided meditation of different kinds.
About the description of your neighbor, you also said that his work, his attention to his detail at work and everything got vivified.
Yes, that's what he said.
His actual work performance improved as a result
because he had those few minutes of
quiet time.
Those few minutes of clarity kind of suffused his whole day, and he had more attention span. Attention is such an issue for many people today, young and old. And
you tell one good story after another, but I sort of want to take advantage of your being a Tibetan Buddhist for so many years, having spent literally decades in India in meditation.
Yeah, but I'm a slow learner. People today are much quicker in the Twitter era. Haiku and mantras can fit perfectly in the Twitter era, don't you think?
Come on.
Who needs long scriptures?
Had we known.
Yeah.
Sounds like an old Tibetan Buddhist joke.
It is. It's a good funny.
What I wanted to really ask you about is what is considered the consummation of the quintessence of practice, which is this idea of nirvana, or in English, of course, enlightenment. And it's, of course, referred to oftentimes, Surya, as this end stage, as though it's maybe outside the flow of time. And could you comment on that as a practical Lama and who we are? And you say that we're always in the now. Yes.
Right.
So some say
where else could we be?
That's right. And we're also, it is said, in that we are also Buddha mind, Buddha nature.
We're all Buddhas by nature. We only have to wake up to who we are.
So what is the relationship of that to this notion of enlightenment?
Well, first of all, a teaching like that is from a certain perspective. Like, we're all Buddhas by nature, but some are sleeping Buddhas and some are awakened Buddhas. So our spiritual task or journey is to learn how to wake up, to recognize, to become fully aware of who and what we really are. So we awaken to the fact that that we are divine, that we are nothing but spirit living in,
Physical form.
human and animal human bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. And then enlightenment is considered outside of time because it was implicit in what I already said. It's outside of sequential, horizontal, linear
Linear time.
relational time,
Sure.
small time, in which things are born and deteriorate.
Right.
But heaven
Old
or
age,
nirvana,
illness, sickness, and death.
like eternity, heaven is supposed to be like non-deterioration, so nirvana too. So small time is about change and deterioration. But the holy now is divine time where there's no change and no deterioration. That's what it means by outside. It's outside of relative time. It's the timeless time. In Tibetan, we even have a phrase for it, the fourth, the holy fourth. It means the fourth fraction of the three times past, present, and future. Past leading to present, leading to future. This is the fourth time, which is included, in everything, so in each one. So if we can be that present, then we are in the divine time. We can usher in the kingdom of heaven and earth, as it says in the good book. That's right. I'd rather talk about awakening or wakefulness rather than enlightenment, but it's the same word meaning. Wakefulness means to be totally here and now and awakened and sort of awareness transparent to itself, unobscured by concepts and delusions, greed, hatred, and delusion. Yes. Right. So it doesn't mean, that nothing's going on. It means everything's going on, but there's no you separate from it. So it's not far from the concept we have of oneness, but Buddhism isn't big on asserting that. That's more of a Hindu idea or a mystical, theistic idea. Buddhism talks about the shining void. Only to say, because there's no way you can stand in oneness. There's no inside or out or bottom.
Yes.
But
it's
you can dance. You
it's
can dance in this open space, groundless and boundless freedom.
Right.
So that's why it's called freedom. Also, enlightenment is freedom, and also bliss and delight.
This is the craziest
and uplifting
irony of them all, Surya. We're out of time.
Time is very important.
Can we believe that we are out of time?
No.
It's not really true. It's only relative.
Yeah.
But it's been an absolute pleasure.
We can go on forever together.
And we will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This has been a good time.
It's been a very good time. I agree. Thank you so much for the good work that you're doing. It's really important to help create greater wakefulness on our planet.
Thank you.
It's a time of great need.
That's our joint mission.
Exactly. God bless.
Thank you.
Read this book. Take the time to read it. It's worth it. Buddhist Standard Time by Lama Surya Das. This is Mitchell J. Rabin. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And there's so much richness here. So take a time and tune in. This is Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week.